but man, all that stuff is just awesome.
Seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon to my viewers in Europe and Africa. Good morning, late morning, I believe, for most of my viewers in the Western Hemisphere. Good very early morning to my viewers in the Pacific Rim, and welcome to the Angry Astronaut, and welcome to what is hopefully going to be Blue Origin's return to flight. As we all know, New Shepard has been out of commission for more than a year. Adhering to their policy of step-by-step ferociously, Blue Origin has step-by-step been analyzing what happened with this thing before they try to fly it again, even though today is an unmanned mission. So where's everybody checking in from? First of all, we have Paris, Kentucky, hello, and then Ohio, hello, and thank you very much for joining us. We have Minnesota, love Minnesota. Thanks very much for checking in. For Marks UK, hello. Clifton, Damien, thanks so much for joining us as always. We, of course, have our awesome producer up in Yorkshire, just outside of Leeds. We also have Ohio, a lot of Ohio, West Virginia. We have Wisconsin and Newcastle upon Tyne, and UK and South Carolina. Hello, my old home state of South Carolina. We also have Australia and Munich and Londonderry, Ontario, Valparaiso. Boy, I wish I knew how that was pronounced. You'd think I would know, but I don't. Las Vegas, Valparaiso. And then also we have Louisville and upstate New York and Indiana and Poland. Hello, Poland. Thank you very much for checking in. Nevada, Indianapolis, Texas. Over 100 people watching right now. I'm very happy about that, given the fact that this is just a New Shepard launch from Blue Origin and an unmanned launch at that. So this is does not have the same sort of significance as the manned launches that we have seen from them in the past. Blue Origin was extremely fortunate to have had the one anomaly that they experienced take place with an unmanned mission. Let's go ahead and check in. Nevada, Indiana, Texas, Greenwood, Idaho, Guatemala, Germany, Indiana, Denmark, Sydney, Canada. Thank you so much, so very much for checking in. Hello, Swansea. And this again, Swansea, my son's favorite place on the planet. He just loves Wales. And by the way, he's going to be here on the 1st, on New Year's Day. My son will be coming to the UK to visit me, and I am so looking forward to that, let me tell you. So once again, appreciate everybody checking in. Falcon Heavy and the U.S. Space Force launching on the 28th. I believe we have the problems rectified at this point. However, this was a unique situation with SpaceX are fairly unique. But then again, we are way too accustomed to seeing, back to back flawless performance from SpaceX. I mean, we've seen that over and over and over again, at least when we're talking about Falcon 9s and Falcon Heavy. And, any launch provider is going to encounter challenges. That's unavoidable. It really is unavoidable. And so, yeah, we had multiple scrubs. I think it took a while for them to identify the issues, and they had to take the rocket back to the launch facility. That's something that doesn't happen with SpaceX very often at all. But that doesn't mean that they're having any sort of significant problems internally or anything. It just means that they're having a problem with this one particular rocket. And also, they need to be extra careful. This space plane, this experimental, high technology, bleeding edge military space plane, they can't blow it up. I mean, an anomaly with a launch like this would be utterly disastrous for SpaceX. It would be a very serious blow. So I think that we should all be just happy that SpaceX found the problem, addressed an issue before they actually lit the candle. If they lit this thing up and sent it up, it's very possible they might have lost the payload, which would have been really disastrous indeed. So, in any event, Jeff going to make me eat my words about Blue Origin. Well, one thing I was going to mention. This is the year for Blue Origin to become relevant, even though they are already very relevant for reasons that I do not think are even remotely deserved. This is a company that has yet to put any payload into orbit at all. They have yet to even have their equipment, their instrumentation, their engines put anything into orbit. That will be changing soon with Vulcan Centaur, but that has not yet happened. So that being the case, they haven't sent anything to orbit, even with their BE-4 engines, and yet NASA has entrusted them with landing on the moon. Obviously SpaceX has the primary responsibility there with Artemis 3 and Artemis 4, but nevertheless, Blue Origin is the backup. If something goes wrong with Starship, if it is determined that the entire process of reusability and a high launch cadence and all those refueling flights turns out to be impractical for putting people on the moon, Blue Origin is the backup solution. And they've been given this immense responsibility in spite of very few accomplishments. I mean, once again, their accomplishments with New Shepard is impressive. They became essentially the first operational suborbital space tourism company. The first one to start taking customers up on a regular basis into suborbital flight. SpaceX has obviously handled space tourism as well, orbital space tourism, but it's a rare thing, and not really a big part of their business. But this is has been a central part of Blue Origin's business plan, at least in their early stages of their business plan, to make New Shepard a consistent, reliable system for taking people into suborbital flight. And it works. It's worked quite well. This last anomaly was grim, but I mean, if you're going to expect to have no anomalies during the course of handling space flight, you're just lying to yourself. At some point, something is going to go wrong. And yeah, Dean, you're right. I'm sorry, go ahead. And by the way, Blue Origin will be going live in about 8 minutes. So we are going to be joining them for their coverage as time goes on, or as we approach that point. Of course, I'll have my commentary mixed in there, so we'll get to find out exactly what they have planned. But this is theoretically, as I was saying before, the year that Blue Origin may actually become really legitimately relevant. And for them to become relevant, in my opinion anyway, New Glenn needs to fly, and it needs to fly carrying actual commercial payloads, paying customers, not a test flight, not, a dummy flight or anything like that, carrying paying customers up to space. If they can actually pull that off, and then even more importantly, if they can actually land the booster and reuse it, then that puts them into a whole new category. That catapults Blue Origin from where they are now, a company that is 95% talk and 5% action, and into a company that is really delivering some valuable services to the spaceflight industry. New Glenn has many capabilities that are impressive, very impressive. For example, the fairing size for New Glenn is utterly colossal. 7-meter fairing, way, way bigger, a lot bigger than Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy. Even if Falcon Heavy, once Falcon Heavy gets that extended fairing, even that New Glenn has by far superior payload volume, which gives them a lot of flexibility in deploying certain types of payloads. So yeah, I mean, Starship obviously has superior capabilities, but New Glenn, in terms of the volume of cargo that it can take up, will become the most capable rocket in existence, with the exception of SLS. But who the hell is going to use that for anything except for Orion? Michael, thank you so much for the $10. China launched their version of the X-37B a week earlier than the U.S. Space Force. They're rescheduling, so China's vessels are back on Earth when they launch. Yeah, you know, I read an article about that. They were saying that it appeared that that neither space plane was going to be in any kind of proximity to one another, that there really wouldn't be, you know, any sort of issue between the two of them. But nevertheless, if indeed China was going to use their space plane as some sort of reconnaissance vessel to get a close look at the X-37B, then hell yeah. You don't want to launch our space plane at the same time as China is flying theirs, if they may be able to accomplish that. So yeah, I actually am not opposed to the idea of this being some sort of big front, gaslighting, you know, that there isn't really a problem with the Falcon Heavy, and they're just delaying it until China brings their ship back. John gifts 5 Angry Astronaut memberships. Thank you so much, John. You get a membership, you get a membership, you get a membership. So what you guys are going to receive, just like Patreon supporters, you'll be receiving a membership on our Discord server. We'll go ahead and post in the in YouTube. It's already posted now, just so you know. On the community tab of the channel, just go to that. You can check your memberships and messages from your memberships, and you will see a link, an invite, in order to become part of Discord. Because of our awesome producer in Yorkshire, the awesome ASN, we are going to, you guys already have that available to you, so feel free to jump on board. Over 200 people watching. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah, you're going to get some very blunt commentary about Blue Origin. But one thing I will say, if they can indeed, well, first of all, returning to flight would be good today. But if they can indeed launch New Glenn this year and take up a paying customer this year, that will be a significant step forward. Oh, and also if they can reuse the booster. If they lose the booster, New Glenn is nothing more than just a great big, you know, disposable rocket. They have to be able to reuse that booster. If they can do all of those things, then Blue Origin is going to be very relevant indeed. But until they actually do, they are not, in my view, legitimately relevant. They make themselves relevant. They, you know, crowbar themselves into contracts. Again, in my opinion, because of the legal firepower that they have at their disposal. But they will actually be really legit this year if they can indeed pull off a New Glenn launch. We will see. We will see indeed. But once again, guys, welcome to all those new members. Really do appreciate that, John. You're awesome. for bringing those folks on board. So yeah, we got some new folks joining our Discord server, and we have lots of spirited conversations that take place. People with all kinds of different opinions on the server. A lot of people who are directly engaged in the spaceflight industry who are on the Discord server. People who work directly for space launch providers, work directly for the military, people who know a hell of a lot about this industry. If you think I get the information for my videos, at least on the space flight side, comes all from my own knowledge, no, hell no, it doesn't. A lot of it comes from my team on Discord. These folks know a lot about this industry. So looking forward to Blue Origin going live here in a moment. Also, some disturbing news. I don't want to be all negative here, but at least we do need to talk about this. Some disturbing news in terms of Blue Origin's corporate culture. There are some lawsuits happening right now. And I actually took the opportunity to check a couple of websites that keep track of opinions that are lodged by former employees of various companies. And let me tell you something, Blue Origin's numbers are utterly atrocious. They're very, very bad, especially if you compare them to some of the well-known launch providers, or not launch providers, just space companies in general out there. Let's see if I can give you some examples of just how bad it is. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, this is out of 5 stars. The work-life balance is a 3.1 out of 5. Not terrible. Pay and benefits is actually pretty good for Blue Origin, 3.7 out of 5. Job security and advancement, 2.9 out of 5 stars. And here's the final rating. Management, 2.4. 2.4 stars out of 5 for Blue Origin. And to give you a comparison as to how this works with, just to give you an idea of like Northrop Grumman, a competitor, who, by the way, we talk a lot of crap about Northrop Grumman and how wasteful they can be and all that, but 3.9 for work life, 4.0 for pay and benefits, 3.5 for job security advancement, 3.5 for management, 3.7 for culture. They're pretty much better than Blue Origin across the board as far as former employees are concerned. And by the way, that's the case for Dynetics as well. Get much higher scores from previous employees than Blue Origin. I actually haven't been able to research SpaceX yet. SpaceX, I think, makes a significant effort to try to keep that information from becoming public. Since they're a private company, they can get away with that. But nevertheless, that's just another thing to consider, especially given the fact that, and I read some of the comments, by the way, management are huge. They really are. They're just vehement towards towards management. So I don't know. Those are just the numbers. So, with the corporate culture like that, sometimes those numbers can be misleading, but nevertheless, when compared to some of their competitors like Dynetics and Northrop Grumman, not very good at all. Michael Maxey brings up a very good point. I totally agree. Keep the residents of Iceland in your prayers. Yeah, there is a very significant eruption taking place, and it is in very close proximity to the most densely inhabited portions of that country. Reykjavik, which has about 70% of the country's population, is very close to this eruption. So we definitely need to keep our eyes on that. Checking to see what the status is with Blue Origin, see if they have anything new that's come out, because we could always have a scrub. You never know. Apparently, we're getting going. Looks like we're getting going right now. Producer, we going live with Blue? Okay, cool. We're going live with We're going live with Blue right now. Good. I was just wondering about that, and here they are. So we'll be checking in periodically with their commentary as we get closer. But as soon as they're done with their little intro, producer, let's go ahead and listen into what they have to say to start off with. Oh, okay. We have it muted currently, just so you know, and we'll have to mute it repeatedly during the broadcast because anytime there's copyright music, even if it's just Blue Origin copyrighted music, they will slam this broadcast. So, okay. All right. So, as as much as I hate to say this, but at the same time, I think you're watching my broadcast. If you're watching my broadcast, you're not terribly interested in what the Blue Origin commentators have to say, according to my producer. And I believe me, I follow his guide, his lead on all this stuff because he's been doing live broadcasts, not just for my channel, but for many others that you're probably familiar with in the past. He knows how this stuff works. Blue Origin, they cut in with copyrighted music all the time. And any of that appears on this broadcast, they will barbecue us. So we're going to have to keep this shut down for a while, and we'll see what happens from here. So in any event, we're only 17 minutes away from launch at this point. So to give you just some quick updates, looks like some final checks have been going on recently, but everything appears to be nominal with New Shepard currently. Once again, to re-emphasize, this is not not a manned mission. And they have gone a very long time now, well over a year, since the last incident, the anomaly that they had took place, even though New Shepard performed exactly as it was designed to during that time, at least as far as we know. The abort system functioned just fine, and the capsule rocketed away from New Shepard relatively unscathed. What we do know is that the payloads experienced massive G-forces, substantially worse G-forces than is generally advertised by Blue Origin. And so consequently, it's very possible that they may have had to really thoroughly check things out and also perhaps make some fine-tuning corrections to the solid rocket motor that they use for their abort system to perhaps subject passengers to less extreme G-forces, because obviously, we've had 90-plus-year-old people on these missions, and very possibly would not have survived an experience like that. So they may have fine-tuned that system a little bit. Thank you so much. Titan for Padrat has joined the Angry Advocates. Really do appreciate you doing that. So once again, this is, of course, one way that you can become part of the Discord community, our Discord family, is to hit that little join button, or another way is to join via Patreon. Either way works. And for a very small monthly fee, either $5 or sometimes as little as $3 on Patreon, you can become part of our community. And not only does it support this channel, but you also get early access to videos, exclusive content, and the most important thing is an opportunity to interact with the community that we have. Hundreds and hundreds of people who are closely connected with the spaceflight industry, great folks who really know what they're talking about, and a lot of spaceflight enthusiasts who are great fun. So super appreciate you joining up. Thanks very much. So that's 6 new Angry Advocates already during this broadcast. I guess I should be grateful to Blue Origin for giving us this opportunity. All right. So as I say, right now, we're not going to be, it's unlikely that we should expect any sort of significantly groundbreaking news from Blue Origin. They play their cards very close to the vest. Who knows? But generally, they don't talk about a lot about what they're about to do until it actually happens. They are amongst the most secretive, if not the most secretive space flight launch provider or space flight company in general. And all of us, I think, are pretty aware of that. We really don't know. I mean, when New Glenn suddenly made an appearance, that came as a surprise to a lot of people. I mean, generally, you don't even get a chance to see New Glenn at all. The only times you get to see anything is when they have the bay doors open in some of their warehouses on a hot day out at the Cape. I was actually there on one of those days, and I saw, I think, the upper stage or the experimental reusable upper stage that they're trying to work with right now. Once again, I can't say that for sure, but I did manage to get a couple of photographs of it and such. But that's, rare stuff. Usually that place is locked down tight, and they don't want anybody paying them any sort of unexpected visit. So launch your digital postcard into space. How about that? That's kind of cool, I guess. Can't complain about that. Anything to get kids interested in space, because I'll tell you, if you look at some of the alternatives of what kids are watching on YouTube, I'd much have them have them watching Blue Origin than some of this crap that's out. Let's go ahead and get some commentary. Looks like a producer is cautiously saying that we should be all right. Let's go ahead and listen to see what Blue Origin has to say right now. All right, we're waiting. Apparently, it's yeah, we're going to transition the audio here in just a moment. Sometimes that can be a little difficult depending on how the broadcast is being handled. But in the meantime, more than happy to talk to you. Yeah, Hollywood said a virtual postcard to Mars. Yeah, that's true. I don't think that sending postcards to suborbital space is quite as exciting as, for example, sending something to the moon. That's something a lot of people got an opportunity to send stuff and still actually are getting an opportunity to send things to the moon through my friends at Astrobotic. I had an opportunity to make my own little well wishes card. That's going to be going in a future mission to the moon with Astrobotic, one that's going to have their Viper rover, their water sniffing rover. So that should be very interested indeed. We've been spoiled by our views of Starship, says John. Don't blame Blue for being secretive about Glenn. Yeah, you're right. In some ways, the one thing that I really think that we need to see, though, and see soon, is because we've gotten details from the Office of Inspector General about lunar starship. It's a lot of details came out not that long ago about whether or not the OIG thinks that lunar starship is going to be ready on time, which of course they said no, it isn't. And then they explained why they don't think it's going to be ready until 2027. Well, we also need to know what's happening with the backup. I don't give a damn how secretive Blue Origin is. There's billions of dollars of taxpayer money going into this. The OIG needs to investigate Blue Origin's progress as well and make that public. I mean, now that they've secured this huge public contract for going to the moon, come on. You've got to give us a look at this process. You've got to let us know when realistically are we going to see, for example, the unmanned Blue Moon lander. Because if things go the way Blue Origin says they're going to go, Blue Moon should actually be landing on the moon, unmanned anyway, prior to Starship landing with human beings for Artemis 3. The Blue Moon should be setting down on the moon well before 2027 if everything
supports
goes
sustainable missions to the moon
to the schedule that Blue Origin says that they're going to adhere to. Well, I'd really like to, see what the NASA Office of Inspector General thinks about that schedule. They need to be opened up to that. If they are not willing to do that, then they shouldn't have accepted the contract. This isn't a military contract here. This isn't something that needs to be protected for reasons of national security. This is a very public event and very critical to the future of American or Western spaceflight in general, because the Europeans are heavily invested in this as well. All right, they've just emerged from hold, and they are proceeding with their countdown. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep. All right. So yes, things look good. And once again, I'm very glad to see that. Regardless of what I think about a company, regardless of what I might think about a launch provider, I always want them to be successful. I don't want to see another anomaly. Sorry, go ahead. All right, we have audio now from Blue Origin as we approach the final countdown. Assume we're probably going to have a go, no go poll. Have we already had that, producer? Okay, so yeah, the go, no go poll is already complete.
Okay, we've just heard from Mission Control that we are go for launch. Those words really never get old, Eddie. I've been here over 11 years. It's been amazing to watch how our offerings have expanded beyond launch to lunar systems, propulsion, on-orbit destinations, in-space resources.
Yes, things certainly are moving fast here at Blue. We're entering a new chapter, evolving from a research-focused startup to a premier space launch, manufacturing, and services company.
But it really began right here with New Shepard.
That's right.
Demand for our flights only continues to grow. We're scaling the fleet, refining our repeatable processes to meet that growing demand.
And it's just amazing to think that it's still day one.
Always day one, Eddie.
All right, all eyes on the rocket. We're at T-minus 8 minutes until launch. New Shepard is undergoing its final set of checks, and we have some very excited students, scientists, and researchers across the globe right now about to watch their payloads fly in space.
Eagle Cam is on board today. It's a CubeSat camera system developed by students and faculty at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Eagle Cam will test the resiliency of payload components during launch in preparation for a future launch of the Nova-C lunar lander. The prototype will test its ability to withstand loads and shocks and vibrations during the launch, in addition to its ability to calibrate the guidance sensors and determine any camera distortion.
Also on the pad today, Teachers in Space. Now that's the name of a payload, not actual teachers, although we do hope to fly more teachers to space someday. This experiment is collecting data in microgravity and was designed in classrooms in Maine, New Mexico, and Kansas. It provides training and opportunities for teachers and students to learn about spaceflight. Following the flight, they'll collaborate to analyze and present their findings publicly at conferences and science fairs.
Absolutely love watching classrooms do this, Eddie, taking an idea from a hypothesis, building hardware, testing it out, and then coming back and sharing their results.
In terms of collecting data, microgravity's got to be one of the coolest places to do that.
Oh, the ultimate science fair project. Clearly, we've got some great payloads on board today, and we're getting close, a little under 7 minutes until launch. As we're looking at New Shepard on the pad, one new thing I wanted to point out to you today is you'll see on the launch tower that we have added an elevator. Accessibility is really important here at Blue, and the elevator offers us a second way for people to access the top of the tower in addition to the stairs. We added the elevator to make New Shepard more accessible to people with disabilities and more people in general. And this is all part of our broader efforts to build inclusion, make space accessible for more and more and more people.
That's really inspiring to hear, Erica, and thank you. I know you've been a part of this effort from the beginning with the, architecture reviews and concept reviews, and recently, our business resource group, New Hawking, helped provide some feedback about the elevator and how to make it better. And this is exciting because millions of people living and working in space will mean people of all backgrounds and people of all abilities. So I'm so proud to hear that this is a focus for our team.
And special thanks to our friends at Astro Access who have also been helping us along the way.
And with that, let's review the New Shepard flight profile for today.
All right, audio's off, and the reason we have to take the audio off is once again because of copyrighted music. So in any event, this is the way that we need to what we need to do. Unfortunately, when this stuff comes on, Blue Origin apparently has a fair amount of copyrighted music that they use. That they'll barbecue my channel if I broadcast that. So anyway, but yeah, this is a very substantial amount of payloads going up. Of course, there are only certain types of experiments that can be sent up on a flight like this, because we're only talking about a few minutes worth of time in suborbital space, a few minutes of time in microgravity. Nevertheless, there are certain types of experiments that can operate in microgravity that can be performed. Pardon? Yes, they're on hold. Apparently, yes. Blue Origin's back on hold, just so you know. They may or may not be having further issues right now. We're waiting for an update. No explanation yet. Light engine, to answer your question, it's very possible that we've already exceeded the number of low Earth orbit objects that we should have up there right now, especially ones that are damaged, ones that have problems. Some people argue the Kessler syndrome is already underway. This is a problem that needs to be addressed very badly. It's one of the reasons, by the way, that I'm in Europe. The Europeans have a very aggressive program for what they call responsible space. And yeah, I think there's going to, they're taking the lead, interestingly enough. Little old Europe that does not have the majority of the stuff that's up there at all. And yet through companies like Astroscale, which, by the way, are in Cornwall. Astroscale Europe is based in Cornwall, and they are attacking this issue. They're part of the effort to try to clean up low Earth orbit through various companies like that, and the UK Space Agency that's investing a substantial amount of money in space cleanup. Hopefully they'll be able to get this going, to prove what system, what sort of method is the most effective for cleaning up low Earth orbit. And then once they do that, once they demonstrate the most effective, once we have that identified properly, then hopefully somebody's going to get behind it in a big way and invest some serious money in doing it, because it's going to be necessary. It is absolutely going to be necessary. Right. Just saying. So everybody knows we have another stream about Starship, about the current status of Starship, that is going to be starting immediately after this.
Hold has cleared. That countdown timer resumed.
The hold has been released. The hold has now been released.
For us today. Now, I'm told this is the 9th mission for this booster.
Producer, are we bringing Blue Origin's audio back online or not?
One of the most important things that's been happening in this new
All right,
era,
so we've got Blue's audio back. Let's go ahead and listen in on what's happening there.
We've been able to take these boosters and to fly them over and over again. Now, traditional rockets, you'd fly them once and you'd throw them away. And that was both wasteful and not sustainable. It also turns out that it costs a whole lot more money when you're flying a rocket only once. Imagine flying an airplane and then having to throw it away. We just wouldn't travel very often.
Yeah, they just quoted
is so
Elon
special,
Musk.
right? 99% of its
dry
dry mass is reused again over and
one
over
thing that's
again, so
impressive,
this
though,
includes
one
the
thing we
rocket
need to
engines,
keep in mind
the
is Blue Origin, on
parachutes.
their
It's
first
really
attempt to
paradigm
reuse the
from the
booster
expendable
for New
rockets.
Shepard, they actually succeeded.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Their
we can
first
see
launch, they
both
weren't
the
even
Capsule
trying
and
to
the booster,
reuse
so
the
that whole
booster.
stack
On their
is
second
really
attempt,
credit
when they
for
tried
us
to, when
as
their
we're
objective was to
plowing our
reuse
way
the
forward
booster,
into the
they
future.
did.
Well, thank you for telling us about that. That's
And
very
that's a
exciting.
pretty big accomplishment.
Just happy to hear
Which
that
makes
this
me
is
think that they
Okay,
may
we're gonna
they
watch
may
and listen
successfully
as New
land the
Shepard
booster
goes through its
for
final
New
checks,
Glenn
gearing
fairly
up for
quickly
its
in
24th
the
flight.
development process as well. No, I'm lit up. I've got I'm not wearing makeup. I've got a stage light on my face, which makes me look a little bit more pallid than usual, probably. Yeah, I've got a little stage light over there to the right of my laptop. However, if I actually had access to makeup, to actually proper TV folks, I would definitely use it. I mean, every time I went on stage in theater, I definitely had makeup every time. So, yeah, it definitely helps your appearance on camera. But I'm a one-man operation here, so don't really have that. I think complaining to the FAA that the kids are crying about the shape of the rocket. I think the kids should be laughing their asses off about the shape of the rocket.
All right, we have a great view of New Shepard sitting out on the pad, getting ready for launch. Next up in our countdown, we're going to be watching for the bit checks. These are built-in tests to help us make sure that all of our systems are ready to go for flight.
We've got great visuals here of New Shepard on the pad. We'll get great audio as well through those built-in tests. And as we see them, we'll call them out.
Yeah, Eddie, the first thing we're going to be looking for is the aft fin checks. So if you look down there at the base of the booster, you can see those fins, those control surfaces that rotate to help direct the vehicle on
Tony, yeah,
Ascent
I just saw that it wasn't popping up here. But Tony James, thank you so much for the £1 super chat. Very generous of you. Really appreciate
helping
that.
to control the vehicle.
There we go. We see the gantry pulling back. Now the booster is getting ready. We are used to seeing the gantry out there so we can do load-in of our astronauts, our payloads. Again, no humans on board today, but everything ready to go. We're watching for those aft fin checks. You'll watch them rotate at the base of the vehicle.
And there they go, moving through the full envelope of motion there. Great built-in test.
Here we go, guys. Very, very big moment for Blue Origin coming up.
After those aft fins, we're going to be looking for the engine nozzle gimbaling. The engine gimbals or rotates to help maneuver the rocket as it flies, providing a thrust vector control. Meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on the pressure and temperature in the propellant tanks. Both of those sets of variables need to stay in the start box or the green zone for us to be ready to launch.
Michael, to my knowledge, they're not building anything new right now. I think there's still some uncertainty. All right, we're 30 and less. I'm going to go ahead and shut up and let Blue Origin take it
off
from
to
here.
mission control. Let's launch this rocket.
Go ahead, ASN.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
We
There
have
we see-
ignition of our BE-3 engine. And liftoff. Mission control confirms that New Shepard has cleared the tower and is headed to space. You can see on the lower left side of your screen that we're gaining speed. As New Shepard gains altitude, the atmosphere gets thinner. The graph on the left shows vehicle ascent. Now, we actually started at about 3,700 feet MSL. That's how far above mean sea level we are at Launch Site 1.
How exciting, Erica. A great shot there of the PM, the propulsion module, moving away from Earth. That BE-3 engine providing 100% power level.
Typical.
And here shortly we will approach max Q.
Of a New Shepard launch.
Where aerodynamic stress on the vehicle is at its maximum, so the BE-3 engine will throttle back for a little bit as we pierce through the atmosphere.
Seemed to have been a momentary delay before ignition, but there could have been a lot of reasons for that between the audio and the visual. Zoom straight through the we apparently had some audio inconsistency there. Everything looking good. New Shepard now having blown
as the air gets thinner. New Shepard is moving faster
past 50,000 feet at this point and is now well beyond supersonic.
Get into that thinner, high upper atmosphere. Such a cool shot there.
So just over 2 minutes of boost for the BE-3 engine before we reach the next stage of our mission, MECO, main engine cutoff.
Everything looking optimal. Once again, it's a single BE-3 engine. It's not, we're not dealing with a big rocket here. Still, it'd be pretty interesting to be in that capsule.
New Shepard continues to climb 145,000 feet.
There it is, main engine cutoff just over 2,200 miles per hour, and soon...
No problem with MECO. So we have gotten past the point to where the previous New Shepard flight went bad.
When the vehicles separate the crew capsule from the booster, we're going to be entering that phase of microgravity. And you can see
what I'm disappointed about is that we don't have an onboard camera.
Really where most of our payloads are getting into the core of their science.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, what a fantastic view.
All sorts of cool experiments here enabled in microgravity, in free fall. Items don't sink or float. Hot air doesn't rise.
There we go.
Cells respond to this novel stimulus with different patterns of gene expression, which gives us new insights for agricultural technologies and medicine.
Yeah, we talked earlier about the importance of fluid physics, because fluid flow on the ground dominated by gravity, the liquid at the bottom of your cup. But in space, it's dominated by surface tension, which leads to all sorts of cool effects with capillary action. And these effects
Andy, I doubt it. I doubt I'll ever fly on New Shepard. If I fly on one of these suborbital things, it will be with Virgin Galactic, assuming that company can keep going.
All of the clean, very clean microgravity data that they're collecting at this time.
Loving that view back down on the clouds over West Texas. Now, if you watch that ticker on the lower left corner, you see we are slowly counting down in our velocity to 0. That's the vertical velocity of the system. And when we reach 0, that's when we've reached apogee.
Still ascending.
Yep. Fantastic. Capsule
Yep, just hit apogee.
Journey just momentarily. Apogee for the capsule at 351,200.
Yeah, well past the Kármán line. That is one distinction that Blue Origin can definitely make. Their rocket goes well past the Kármán line. Virgin Galactic does not.
Under the effect of gravity, the gumdrop shape here of the crew capsule will mean a slower return for the crew capsule, but there on the left, a great view of the propulsion module returning back to the West Texas desert.
Michael, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thicker again, we start to have the ability to use our aerodynamic control surfaces. What you'll be seeing next is the air brakes deploying. This is a critical step in slowing the vehicle down, increasing the surface area, just like a badminton shuttlecock or something that's helping you to come down through the upper atmosphere. We're going to see that the velocity starts to decrease with those air brakes out.
In fact, the drag brakes should cut the velocity in about half. So we'll be looking for that, picking up, hopefully with the cameras, the long-range cameras, and seeing those drag brakes deploy as the propulsion module cuts through the atmosphere.
So see, we have definitely a rapid rate of descent now.
And those are the
Ooh,
forward
there we
fins
go, yeah.
deploying there on the right. A great view looking up from the propulsion module into space and seeing those forward fins deploying.
Going to get booster landing here very shortly.
You can see the capsule passing by.
How about that? We actually got a shot of the
well above
capsule.
the booster at this altitude.
What a great video shot.
In that view,
Love
that's
seeing
it. That's
this. Those are
intriguing.
experiments our
We
customers
got that
today
in the same
getting their
shot on the
microgravity
right-hand
data
side.
in.
That's kind of cool.
So that booster coming in at about Mach 3, pulling at about 5 Gs as it re-enters the atmosphere. So we're going to be seeing that velocity increase rapidly at this point.
And this is one of my favorite parts of observing a mission from West Texas.
Yep, there go the drag
Those are
brakes
drag
on the
brakes. There they are
booster.
deployed. And we see those aft
It's
fins
coming down so
steering the
fast. It's
booster
amazing
over
to
the
see how
landing pad.
quickly this thing decelerates.
Yeah, if you're in West Texas, you may be hearing a sonic boom coming up here as we break through the sound barrier.
There we go.
BE-3 engine relight, just 2,000 feet to go before the landing pad.
Amazing. Man, that thing goes from like 370 miles an hour to nothing in just a second. Obviously, SpaceX does the same thing, but it's really cool to see that.
And we have booster touchdown.
Beautiful landing.
Congratulations,
Beautiful
New
landing.
Shepard propulsion module and the BE-3 engine for providing just the right feathered thrust.
That
to
is
come
very
in for the
cool.
nice hovering
I
landing.
mean, it's coming down
that's
substantially
really
faster
cool.
than
This
terminal
booster
velocity
really
for it
showing
to
the
do that and then
operational
decelerate.
reusability of the
By the
system
way, guys,
and how many
that's
times
something
we
that's
can
going to
get
be
to
a
space.
very big
Well,
deal
Erica, we've
with
just
Starship in the
safely
future
landed the
because
booster.
terminal velocity
Now we're
on
about to
Mars
continue
is
Capsule
1,000 kilometers an hour.
back to the West
It's
Texas
the
Desert.
Starship's booster will be descending towards the surface of Mars way, way faster than what we saw right there. So it's going to be a lot trickier to try to make it land. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, for those of you who are listening, again, I'm assuming you're probably watching this broadcast because you want to listen to what I have to say as opposed to Blue Origin. But nevertheless, yeah, it's neat stuff. And we are only actually a couple of minutes away from Capsule landing. But as I was mentioning before, that was very dramatic to see how rapidly that deceleration took place in that landing. And, you know, on Mars, it's going to be substantially trickier because terminal velocity on Mars is way, way faster. There's going to be no parachutes for Starship or anything like that. So the current plan is to have the engines do almost 100% of the work there. The atmosphere is so thin that even with things like air brakes, flaps, fins, etc., we can anticipate Starship to be plunging down towards the Martian surface at a very high rate of speed. So yeah, it'll be a lot trickier to carry that out. Here we go. And you're going to see a huge puff of dust. That's not because the New Shepard capsule is hitting the ground really hard. It's because it has these jets, these braking thrusters that fire at the last possible moment to provide deceleration so that it has a softer landing, actually. It looks like a brutal landing, not unlike the landing that the Chinese recently experienced when they had a rip in their parachute. I don't know if you saw that, but that was violent, and actually the capsule rolled around quite a bit as well. The new Shepard capsule, way safer than what the Chinese use. Several parachutes, first of all, and also these braking thrusters. We're going to see this in just a second. That's going to be pretty neat. Yep. Once again, you would think based on that big that all of a sudden that capsule just slammed into the earth, but it didn't. 80-90% of that burst of dust is from the thrusters firing, not from the impact of the capsule itself. It still hits kind of violently, but those thrusters really do a good job of decelerating. So pretty neat stuff. So yeah, that was very impressive flight, and all those NASA payloads on board. I'm pretty sure that we gathered a lot of useful scientific information. Once again, to emphasize, and this is something that Virgin Galactic demonstrated repeatedly in most of their flights, is they send experiments up with the flight because microgravity experiments can be very useful, and you can carry out limited microgravity experiments on these kinds of ships that you can't do on the Vomit Comet, for example, because a Vomit Comet can only sustain microgravity for a brief period of time, whereas on, like, we're talking 30 seconds, whereas on New Shepard or on the Virgin Galactic ships, you get a much longer period of time in microgravity, meaning that you can carry out a wider variety of microgravity related experiments on these types of flights. So, in spite of what you might hear about these sorts of things, that they're pure space tourism, that they're not real space flight, they serve no useful purpose, they actually do. And this flight, I think, demonstrates that. As I said, we had over 30 scientific payloads on board this flight from NASA primarily. And that's good stuff. It's definitely, it shows that this kind of space flight can carry out a wider variety of missions than just taking high-paying, rich multimillionaires into space. You may also have recalled the Virgin Galactic flight. That was the first manned commercial flight that they ever made. Didn't actually have space tourists on board. It had Italian Air Force personnel. And those guys got right to work immediately on their microgravity experiments that they had on board. They took a moment to, have fun and show the Italian flag and that sort of thing. But for the most part, they did a lot of useful scientific work while they were on that particular mission. So I think both Virgin Galactic and now Blue Origin have demonstrated that this type of stuff is it is relevant. Is it as relevant as orbital space flight? Well, obviously not even close. And for Blue Origin to actually become a relevant launch provider, they need to start getting into some orbital work, which hopefully this year they're going to do. And until they do, I really don't think that that they can be regarded as a serious contender, a serious competitor to SpaceX, regardless of what contracts they manage to get. They're just not relevant. They're not legitimate until they actually have a successful mission. And that was true with SpaceX, with Falcon 1. They didn't start getting really big contracts until Falcon 1 made it to orbit. And unfortunately, that just doesn't, that does not seem to be the case with Blue Origin. They seem to be getting contracts as if they were a legitimate launch provider, even though they really aren't, not yet. However, all of that having been said, this was a really good launch of New Shepard. Again, very successful return to flight. So we'll have to see what else ends up happening. David Lane, countdown to the Saturn V. Oh, I appreciate you saying that, David. Definitely. So yeah, exciting stuff coming here real soon. Next year in 2024, got some incredible launches coming up real soon, including Starship, by the way. And now that I've mentioned that, we are going to be transitioning from this broadcast to a live stream where we are going to be discussing Starship and the current state of affairs with SpaceX and Boca Chica. So please stay tuned for that. We're going to be transitioning. For those of you who need to head off now, then, thank you very much for watching. Pardon, go ahead. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Apparently, according to my producer, and I agree with this completely, we're actually going to have an intermission in between the two broadcasts. I thought we were going to have to do a direct transition from the Blue Origin because of the timing of it, but we're actually going to have an intermission. It will be taking place at 5:30 UK time, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, so half an hour from now. Sorry about the misunderstanding there. 30 minutes, and I will be back to talk about SpaceX and Starship. Looking forward to seeing all of you. So until then, guys, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.